new tactics, some new strategies, and Deb and I have been talking about that, particularly when we have politicians, as one of the students said earlier, saying that 47% of people in this country won't vote for him because they don't pay income taxes, they see themselves as victims, and they receive government aid, right? So who is he talking about? And I think that definitely relates to the changing demographics of our country, as people talk about us becoming a majority-minority country, which is contradictory, right? If you're the majority, you're the majority. You should no longer be a minority. How do certain groups continue to be cast as minorities? So the second issue that I wanted to raise tonight is the ways in which ethnic and minority studies and public higher education in general are under attack. In higher education, even Harvard's being attacked. So, it's not just UNC, but we have people saying, should everyone go to college? Newsweek has an article this week. Should everyone really go to college? What's the point of college? So we have to be attentive to what's happening. The attacks on African American studies, Latino studies, women's studies, that's been happening for a while on our campus. It's interesting that we're being taped. I don't know where this will end up, but sometimes you just have to speak out, right? So I think that when we think about what's happening, we really have to think about what it would mean to attend and work at universities and colleges in which there is no meaningful or critical discussion of gender, race, ethnicity, immigration, or sexuality. What types of students, leaders, and citizens will we produce and send out into the world? Ones who are uncritical of their own privilege and completely out of touch with other members of their own society and much of the rest of the globe, which is something we've seen increasingly in one particular politician, right? So do we want a narrow-minded society where people can connect across differences? As we think about higher education, we need to consider the possible impact of this new Blue Ribbon panel, which some of you may have heard about, that the UNC system has formed to come up with a blueprint for all 16 campuses. So these are some really, I would say, dangerous times in which we need to be attentive, in which we need to fight back. Our Pope is on this panel, and he's the co-founder of the John William Pope Center for Higher Education Policy, the Pope Center, which was named for his father. So some of us, are here for 4 years or a little bit more, and then we move on. These battles are ongoing, though. So the Pope Foundation tried to institute a Western civilizations curriculum at the university several years ago, even before I came here. So that was 8 or 10 years ago, I'm not sure. And so our department has been under attack for a long time. The Stone Center has been under attack, Women's Studies, the Carolina Women's Center. When you see budgets being slashed, that's not only fiscal, that's also political. And as students, I think you need to be aware, that this is all happening a lot of times behind closed doors. I was looking at the Pope Center's website today, so you can go there, popecenter.org. They regularly post articles criticizing and ridiculing legitimate academic fields, such as women's studies and African American studies. One article there refers to them as pseudo-academic programs that are more political than academic, and that are part of the so-called victims' revolution. There's a book out called The Victims' Revolution, which is criticizing non-traditional fields like women's studies and African American studies. So we do hear this discourse of victimhood, that the soon-to-be majority are actually the victims, and that we see ourselves as victims and we want handouts from a quote-unquote food stamp president, right? So this is all tied together as we think about whether people think that there should be access to higher education, who should be there, who should receive financial aid. All of these things are interrelated. So as someone who has been experiencing a crisis, in terms of what's been happening in our department, how our department has been treated by the media and so forth, I just wanted to help us to think about the broader context, politically and economically, and how this all relates to power. I think really who is going to be in power in this country, whether they're the numerical majority or minority in the years to come.
I think Dr. Caldwell's statements are a good transition to power and power here at UNC. I think you all have been reading and paying attention to all the news about big-time athletics here on campus. Where's the power? So I'd like to open this question to any panelist, and respectfully knowing that Clayton has to leave soon for academics, but to share your thoughts on whether or not we can have big-time athletics here in Carolina. What are the pros, what are the cons, solutions? So let's talk about big-time athletics.
I know one thing for me over the past 4 years that was hard being an athlete is the whole time management thing. And I think now it's more possible to achieve big time athletics and have big time academics, like, and have them hand in hand, especially the new Loudermill Center. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that. And I think it starts with, making sure we're taking advantage of what's here. That's something that was stressed to me by my mom. You want to be great on the field. Everybody wants to be great on the track, but how many people want to be great in the classroom? Because, God forbid, if, I want to run professionally, God forbid I break my leg and can't run, then what do I have to fall back on? And I think one of the solutions or a way we can start is at home. At least that's where it started for me. I grew up with both my mom and my dad, and from a very young age, they encouraged athletics, but even more so academics. And that was something that I felt was kind of different just with how I grew up, because I feel like a lot of times, at least from people that I've talked to, athletes that I've talked to, sports was kind of seen as the way out, not academics. And when we look at TV, we watch basketball, we like football, and it's all us out there, and we want to do that. I'm trying to do that, but there's got to be that balance. There's got to be that conversation of what if that doesn't happen. How many people internationally are trying to be an athlete? Like, if you really think about it, how many people internationally are trying to run track? So there's got to be that conversation of it might not happen. You have to be great on the field and off the field. Even more so maybe off the field. And so I think that's definitely one of the solutions. And in that, like, when we get to a point like here, like where I am now, where I'm still in it, like still like getting my education, going to the younger guys and being like, look, I hear you guys, saying C's get degrees, but I don't want a degree getting all C's, and I wish I had thought like that earlier. But, I want to, if I could go back, I would try to come out of here with a 4.0. I'm not going to come out of here with a 4.0. But I wish I had more of my peers that were more encouraging, because the way I speak growing up, I kind of got made fun of. And at a certain point I was like, okay, like I'm getting made fun of, forget school, I'm just gonna be the athlete. But no, we need to encourage each other to be better on all levels, relationally, academically, athletically, how we treat each other. So I think, all that to say, I think it is possible. There's just a lot of different levels that we have to kind of get to achieve that. But it's definitely possible here, and I'm seeing it kind of come along here more and more. But it definitely is possible.
To go off what Clayton was saying, I think there also is a need for us who are not on the athletics side to challenge our perceptions of what we think of athletics and what we think of the athletes. I think a lot of us have stereotypes that we tend to put athletes in, and therefore we mold our perceptions of the athletic department to fit those stereotypes, and that necessarily isn't the case. And so I believe that there needs to be real conversation and dialogue between the academic and athletic side to actually see that there's benefits from both, and they both contribute to the university system. Prime example, I had the opportunity to have an internship at the University of Vermont, which is a small D1 school, but they have a low athletic culture. And by them having a low athletic culture, their students didn't have a lot of school pride. And the school, because their students didn't have school pride, a lot of their students engaged in activities of vandalism, things that defacing of public property on the institution, because they didn't have the Carolina way. They didn't have, I'm proud to be a Tar Heel. And I think that athletics plays into that culture of school pride, and that school pride benefits in the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. So I see them going hand in hand, and I think there is a need for all of us to challenge our perceptions of the athletic department, challenge our perceptions of athletes in general, and get to know them. And as well as encourage them. Like he said he wished he had peers